to say a good evening to all of us who are joining us for the fellowship today. I have something to share with us. I have entitled my little thought for today, Destined for Significance. And the key passage that I'll be sharing from is Proverbs 22, verse 29. And it says, "Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings, he shall not stand before mean men." I repeat, it's Proverbs 22:29. "Seest thou a man diligent in his business? He shall stand before kings, he shall not stand before mean men." Uh, I know we have all been through quite challenging times because of this pandemic, COVID-19. Some of us may have had to lose our jobs or venture into something new. Probably some of us have tried out new forms of business, have tried their hand at different things just but to get a different income. And I know that this has been an eye-opener to many of us. This term hustle or hustler is a buzzword in Kenya today, and I think of late we have seen it in the media, a lot of imagery with the wheelbarrows, with the carts, with the car washing machines, and I really thought as we engage today, it's probably good that we consider these different jobs that we do, because I tend to think that there is a perception sometimes that can be a little bit negative towards some of these odd jobs, and especially amongst those of us that consider ourselves educated, those of us that consider ourselves to have gone to school. Some of us think it's not so appropriate for those who are educated to engage in some of these odd jobs. But as we read from the passage today, uh, in Proverbs 22, verse 29, the key word there is a man who is diligent. It really doesn't focus on what exactly you're doing, but what we get is that you could find prominence just by the way you engage with what you are doing. I have chosen two examples that I'd like us to look again, just coming from what we have had in the media. This is two young graduates that left the university, all of them with great expectations of finding a job. I think the first we all probably may have heard about Kelvin, this gentleman called Kelvin Shaban, a man with a Bachelor of Science in Communications and Public Relations from Moi University, that ended up doing a bit of journalism and working as a lecturer in Eldoret. And because of COVID-19, he lost his job. And instead of sitting in the house, he decided that he was going to take a cut and draw it. And I think that is how the media got hold of him. This young man, who they say would speak very fluent English and Kiswahili. What impressed me is what his peers, those who worked with him on the street, had to say about him. Just read shortly. They say he is a friend to all, respects those he comes across without discriminating. He does not see himself as educated. And, of course, as much as the media would want to have portrayed it as a young man who is highly qualified but lacking a job, his own attitude towards what he was doing made this gentleman very likable. And not just to, I would want to believe that there are potential employers that are watching this broadcast. But his own colleagues had very beautiful things to say about him. I look at that man as somebody who is, but somebody who's going places. Uh, and reflecting on exactly what the peers had to say, he does not show himself as somebody who is educated. Because when we are serving people, it is true we may have the highest qualifications, but ultimately what people want to feel is that in the service that you're giving, if they sense the honesty and they sense that you are giving your all and you're giving your best, then people will get to associate with us. They will get to like us. And indeed, as we read in Proverbs, the end for this man, I don't believe, is pulling carts. I want to believe that he would go further. The second gentleman is also a graduate of a university, but this gentleman scored a first-class honors. A first-class honors is what those of us, many of us would want to attain. But he ended up unemployed, and when they interviewed him, he was looking after some few cows and goats. And what hurt me a lot is when the gentleman said that he was not happy. He was not happy about what he was doing. He had great expectations, probably this great job, and the fact that he now just had to look after cows and goats, was really not his expectation. Uh, but getting to think about it, why I felt for the young man is because this was on prime time, and of course, people always ask ourselves, if you're looking for a job, why would they want to engage you? Why would they want to entrust their business to you? And if you yourself, probably in what you're doing, uh, do not have passion, it may just have been the cows or the sheep or the little herding that he was doing, but the passion that we have towards what we do, even for ourselves, speaks a lot. And I thought that this was a wasted opportunity. When I look at the Bible, and the Bible talks about David. David was a young shepherd boy. When he was anointed to be king, the prophet came, and I think he was the least likely of candidates that would have been chosen for that position. But we are told that David loved to play his harp. And what's I take note of is that is in First Samuel chapter 16 is when God rejects Saul as king and chooses David, and eventually we're told that some evil spirits would trouble Saul, and he asked to have somebody who could play the harp very well, and they remembered this young man, and that is how they reached out and they got David. When Samuel anointed David, there was really nothing to show that he had been anointed to take this position, but his pathway into the palace was a little gift that he had. And as you read on, I think inside there, it says eventually David played the harp for King Saul, and King Saul loved this young man. He had this likable character. So here we see somebody starting off at a position of probably insignificance, but because of doing so well what he did, he was able to uh, find significance. I just want to share three things that I think should help us, because I really feel it's important that we address our attitudes towards some of these tasks that we do. I know we are all people of ambition. We aim for big things. But the sad reality is we always tend to despise humble beginnings. In Romans chapter 12, verse 3 to 8, we'll just read that for us. The book of Romans chapter 12 from verse 3. Of course, this is talking about service in the house of God, but it has clues that we can pick for ourselves and also for our careers. Verse 3, for I say, through the grace given unto me, to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but soberly, according as God hath dealt to each man the measure of faith. For as we have many members in one body, and all members have not the same office, so we, being many, are one body in Christ, and every one members of another. Having then gifts differing according to the grace that is given to us, whether prophecy, let us prophesy according to the proportion of faith, or ministry, let us wait on our ministering, or he that teacheth on teaching, or he that exhorteth on exhortation. He that giveth, let him do it with simplicity. He that ruleth, with diligence. He that showeth mercy, with cheerfulness. As I read this passage, three things came to mind, and the first is the fact that we need to really have a sober reflection about ourselves. We have to have this sober assessment about ourselves. As I said, we are people that sometimes dream big things. We want to achieve a lot, but it really is important that we calibrate our ambition. Uh, Something that is hard to do, but also be calibrated with contentment. Because many times life will not throw us the big opportunities at the beginning. The opportunities that will come our way will be those that we would call the odd jobs. I do not know whether these would fit into those that are now really highlighted as the hustling. But it is really good always to have a perspective, a God perspective in those moments, and to place ourselves and to realize that indeed, God is the center of everything. Every good and every perfect gift comes from the Father of lights. And, it is nice to show that appreciation, even as we pursue the greater things. It's always important for us to seek to prosper, yes, but let's seek to follow after the will of God. Uh, do not think too highly of yourself. Let us learn to accept whatever positions God sends our way, the positions and the opportunities that come our way. Let's accept them with humility. Jesus said this to his disciples at one time, that if there is any that would be the greatest among them, it is one person, that one person that would be their servant. So it is a humbling thought, but it's always good when we place God in perspective. When we put God within the picture, then that will help us to calibrate. Would help us to tone down our own ambition. It would help us to, in a way, selves to God. And eventually, even as we set out, of course, it's still not bad to follow our ambitions, but it's always good to have limits. It has been said that in an interview, there are people that I think young men were interviewed, and there are those that say they would do anything it takes to get wealth and to get riches, even if it meant stealing. And I think that was a very sad premise. When we fear God and when we can always believe that we can pursue what we want to get in a way that honors God. The second thing that comes through, and especially as I read the Romans chapter 12, verse 4, going forward, it talks about us being members of one body. We are all interconnected. There really is not is less significant than the other. This person that is probably working on your shoes, or this person that is washing cars, or this person that is moving your goods from one point to the other, all of this service is valued, and it's important as that we also check our own attitudes, so that we do not belittle the gifting and the talents of others. That really comes as important, because if we ourselves desire that we will find significance for what we do, that is just a genuine concern and a desire that many others have. And how I pray that we too would also be quick to compliment and to reward those that come within our circles, because at the end of the day, we cannot all do the same thing, and there are those of us that are gifted at doing what they do, and they deserve merit for what they're doing. The last and the third thing that I really pick out from this, if we are going to fix our attitudes and destine ourselves for success, is we need to recognize our gifting and the talents that God has given to us. I mentioned David some time back, a man that was gifted with music. We read the book of Psalms and we read many of those Psalms, and up to this day, we still find a lot of encouragement from some of the songs and the Psalms that he wrote. But gentleman had a humble spirit, and he was willing to exercise that gifting. Let's identify the gift and let's utilize them. Education is a good thing, but I want to believe that even before we get education, God has given to us all that it takes that pertains to life. Has bestowed on us several things that we could use. Uh, Colossians chapter 3, verse 23 to 24 says, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord, not as unto human masters, since you know that you will receive an inheritance from the Lord as a reward. It is the Lord Christ you are serving. So let us find our giftings and let us do it faithfully. If it is teaching, if it is prophesying, if it is encouraging, let us explore every other opportunity to use these giftings. And whatever service, as we read in Colossians chapter 3, let's do it as unto the Lord. When we look at this person that we are serving and imagine that it is the Lord, I'm sure we will give our best. And the truth is, even if we will not find our reward from those that we serve, the Lord himself will be our inheritance. It is him that will be our reward. So I want to, as I conclude, we need to fix our attitude when dealing with those so-called humble beginnings. And I know the Bible tells us not to despise them. Let's just make our focus. Let's engage. Blessed is that man, that will serve with diligence. That man that engages with all diligence, surely his end will not be before mean men. His end will be before kings. Let us serve like we're serving Christ. Let's give it all our heart, and I'm sure that our end will be a sure end, an end that is prescribed, one of success, one of honor. Thank you for listening to me.